All right, well, I think we're gonna get started. Thanks for joining us today. We are joined by Shae Bowman. She is a energy development specialist with Rural Cap, and she's gonna talk to you today about empowering small businesses. Thanks for being here, Shae.
Thanks everybody for coming to this exciting talk on a Tuesday. So I work for Rural Cap. That's my full-time job, and we have a technical assistance program for the REAP grant. So that the REAP grant is the Rural Energy for America program, and it's for small businesses to apply for grants to make energy efficiency improvements or to install a renewable energy system for their business. So I'm working for RollCap, and then I'm partnered with Information Insights, and I'll say a little bit more about them in a minute. But basically, when you sign up for technical assistance, you'll get help by either myself at RollCap or one of our partner team members at Information Insights. So a little bit about RollCap. RollCap is a statewide nonprofit serving low-income Alaskans in rural areas, and they have lots of different programs, including housing services. They facilitate the self-help housing program that some of you might have heard about. They just completed a project in Soldotna, and I think they're launching in Kodiak. And then they have health programs, early childhood education. They run all the Head Starts in the state of Alaska, and they also provide weatherization services for low-income families. So lots of different programs. This program is just one small program that's available through RollCap. And then Information Insights is our partner organization. They are a woman-owned small business based out of Fairbanks, and they are a consulting company. They consult on lots of different programs, but they also help with this REAP grant program. And then the REAP grant is funded through the USDA, so these are our USDA contacts for the state of Alaska. If you're interested in applying to the REAP grant, the first person you'll probably talk to at the USDA is Dean Smith, and he's really great. So what is a REAP grant? REAP grants provide funding for between 25 to 50% for energy efficiency improvements or for businesses to install a renewable energy system. This grant is specifically for rural small businesses, so that is any business in the state of Alaska, excluding Juneau or Anchorage, that has 300 employees or less. So that's pretty inclusive. It's not available for nonprofits, and yes, that nonprofit has a for-profit subsidiary, and the same goes for tribes. If the tribe has a for-profit subsidiary, then that subsidiary could apply. And so typically, you're looking at 50%. So the grant is a reimbursable grant, and if you're funded, the USDA will reimburse you for up to 50% of your project costs. It's usually between 25 to 50%. It kind of depends on the project and what the USDA wants to award. But typically you see 50% of the project costs covered for projects that are non-emitting projects. So that would be like installing a solar system or installing a heat pump or making any sort of energy efficiency improvement where you're moving away from using fossil fuels. And then, so who can apply? I already talked about rural small businesses. Agricultural producers can also apply if at least 50% of their gross income comes from the agricultural business. And then I have clarified that does include mariculture. Yeah.
Fishing, salmon?
Yeah, I'm gonna get to commercial fishing.
Okay, but
Yeah. Commercial fishing businesses for the purposes of this grant are considered a rural small business. But I do have a bunch of slides specifically for commercial fishermen. So this is sort of a. And so funds can be used for either installing renewable energy systems. Most common thing that we see is solar panels, but if you wanted to get creative, you could also look into biomass, geothermal, using hydropower. You get a wind turbine if you were so inclined. For this grant, it needs to be commercially available technology, so it couldn't be like a homemade hydropower system. It needs to be like vetted. And then you can also, so that would be one type of application, of renewable systems application. And then there is another application that's specifically for energy and efficiency improvements. And if you're looking at doing kind of a renewable energy project alongside an energy efficiency project, you can apply for those at the same time, but it would be two separate applications. They'll basically be identical information for most of it, but the project specifics will be a little bit different. And so things that are included for energy efficiency improvements include adding better insulation to your building, upgrading your lights to be LED lights, replacing your appliances, especially for grocery stores, you're looking at replacing like refrigerators or freezers to be more energy efficient. And then, yeah, I think that about covers that. Oh, this could also include installing a heat pump for your business. And then, so commercial fishing, that's probably what people in Cordova are going to be most interested in. And yeah, you can apply. The only thing that is specifically excluded from this grant is engine propulsion. So they don't want you to be replacing your engine to like an electric motor. I don't know why that is, but that is what it is.
we're not there yet.
No, I don't know.
I mean, it's there.
Yeah. And so other projects that would work would be installing solar panels on your boat, increasing the capacity of your fish hold, or adding insulation to your fish hold. You could also install a refrigerated saltwater system. I think Robert knows quite a bit about those. And then you could install LED boat lights. Specifically, I'm talking about those big giant halogen lights that are on the top of the boat that help, see out into the ocean. I'm not sure what those are called, but
LED lights.
yeah, you could change those to be LED lights. And so I've got an example of a proposed commercial fishing project. This was an audit that was done for a seiner in Prince William Sound. It's a 58-foot seiner. And they proposed insulating the fish holds and the hatch covers, adding plumbing to zone fish holds so each hold can be refrigerated independently or combined, which would reduce the refrigeration loads. They want to install a smaller generator that would be used instead of their big generator when they're like stationary or just using lights and basic boat amenities when they're not fishing. And then they want to replace those big lights that I was talking about with LED lights. And so this is a cost breakdown of their proposed. their project proposal. They're looking at just over $100,000 for doing all of that. And then this is their estimated energy savings. So they're looking at saving about $7,000 each year, which would reduce their energy costs by about 29%, which I don't know, seems pretty good. It really depends on, the fishermen to determine if that savings is worth it. Every application will need to get an audit, so every application will go through this process, and every fishing vessel or project is going to be different, so you're going to get, different estimates for what your potential cost savings is going to be, but the energy auditor will put together a whole report that details everything you would want to know. And so this is their estimated payback. It's without the grant, they're looking at a payback of 14 years, which is a pretty far out payback. With the grant covering $40,000, they're looking at a payback of about 9 years. And then after that, they would be saving money. And so the application components to apply for a REAP grant are, first of all, that you need to register for a SAM number. Then you need to get an energy audit or assessment. Rural Cap has funding to cover partial costs of the energy audit, usually for communities or applicants that are off the road system. Will cover 50% of the energy audit if you're off the road system and also a member of a disadvantaged community, like for say Alaska Native, then we'll cover up to 75% of the audit costs. And so when you sign up for technical assistance through me, that's how you get access to that energy audit funding. And then after you have your energy audit, you'll get a report. And then from there, you can decide if you want to move forward with actually submitting an application and figuring out what your project is going to be. And then from there, you would get quotes from all your contractors or installers. And then you would submit your application and you'd get a letter of approval or disapproval. And then at that point, you would start spending money on your project. This grant is a reimbursable grant, so you have to pay for the total cost of the project up front, and then once it's completed, you submit a request for reimbursement for whatever percentage you were approved of. And so yes, what I'm offering is free technical assistance to get through this application process. This is the link that you can go to sign up for technical assistance. And this is my email, and this is Dan Smith's email. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to either of us. And back on the back table, there's a couple flyers that have a QR code. If you scan that QR code, it'll also take you to the same link. And so any questions? Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a few. Okay, we're not, Dakota is not on the road system.
Mm-hmm.
We're not connected to the world.
Yeah.
Okay. And then burdened, you mentioned natives, but I mean, living here is kind of a burden, high cost of everything else, and freight and stuff. I mean, what do they count as burdened?
So when we're talking about disadvantaged community, that's like your demographics. So are you obviously women, Native American?
My wife's smarter than I am. What do you mean? I'm a disadvantaged one.
That's just the demographics the categories that the USDA gives us to work within. So Alaskan Natives are considered disadvantaged, women, African American, Native American,
Mexican,
basically, yeah, Mexican, basically people of color.
white.
Yeah, I mean, it would depend on what you tell me. I'm not going to
No,
verify.
it's just kind of, there's other, yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah,
That seems quite a lengthy process, and then
it is a very
Then-
lengthy process, and
I'm gonna have to get a loan
yeah,
to do the project at a interest rate.
yeah, there are low interest loans available through the USDA that you could apply for to use for this project.
I'm just thinking that example you gave,
Yeah,
he would have to get, okay, it's not 104, it's closing costs,
mhm.
interest. So, is it 120 by the time he gets the job complete? And then he's reimbursed on
I'm not
30%
sure.
on the,
I don't know if they'll reimburse for interest that's accumulated over the course of the project.
that's what I'm just wondering. I mean, you're doing your financial plan to
Yeah,
using the program. If it takes longer, it's gonna be,
mhm.
the 40% could be 30%.
Yeah, that would be a really good question for Dan, or you could ask him, or I'll make sure to ask him. But I don't know if interest would be covered.
And then you mentioned that, poverty. I mean, we're making stuff, we're not super rich or nothing, we're not gonna.
No. So the low income statistics are based off of like the EPA and the US Census data for communities, and also the Denali Commission. They put out a report of disadvantaged communities. Cordova is not on that list or any list for low income community.
We just had a run failure for salmon. I mean, we're kind of a disadvantaged community.
Yeah,
They're working on the budget right now. They're gonna have a hell of a time figuring out how to make that work in the city. What I was thinking about for me is the neighbor insulated his house. He put foam board on the outside and stuff.
Mhm.
Now, is that part of a poverty level project or?
so that insulating a house wouldn't.
Unless it's your business, or
Yeah, it has.
it has to be for business.
Well, and then it gets really complicated because if like for say you have a home office in your house, the USDA would want your office to basically be on a separate meter. So home offices are like really, really tricky to do.
Oh, that's so hard because so many of us here, if we have any business,
Yeah,
and if you're trying to.
Yeah,
your
I would
tax
say
liability annually, it kind of, so.
I
trying to figure
guess
out
if you want like housing assistance, it's probably a lot more productive to look at like the Alaska Housing Finance Corporation at their weatherization programs. If you actually did qualify for low income assistance, then there is quite a bit of housing weatherization projects, but this is specifically for businesses and business buildings. Doing like,
That's kind of rural assistance and it's for businesses. Well,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, Tony?
Is there a minimum criteria for, let's say it takes 100 years to make the efficiency pay off? Did they take that into account when you're?
There is not a minimum efficiency for how long that payback would take. There is a minimum dollar amount. It's pretty low, like $5,000 for total project costs, so $2,500 for the grant.
If you bought a bunch of new refrigerators, I mean, how how much of an efficiency upgrade are you gonna have?
Yeah, that would come out in your energy audit report. But if you're like,
Yeah,
If you just got a new one.
so you'd have to have a list of all the current refrigerators in the year and all. That's it. Sounds like a lot of work.
it's a lot of work. And also, if you're talking about like for the apartment buildings,
Yeah,
those are considered long-term housing, so they would not be eligible, I don't think. But you could email Dan Smith and
you would know better.
he would say for hard, for sure if it was or was not eligible. My guess is probably not. Things like short-term lodges are eligible. But like, for instance, I don't think an Airbnb is necessarily eligible. Yeah. Like housing, long-term housing and short-term rental units, that gets pretty confusing and in the weeds. So.
That's the only thing I could think of that I could benefit from this program.
Yeah. But yeah, I would definitely email Dan and, get, actual clarification on that.
Yeah, just everything I can think of is, as a fisherman, I
You can insulate your fish holes.
don't want to, the guys that insulate it and then they get stuff underneath and corrosion and stuff. I'm not gonna put a generator on there. I'd like to insulate the house and I need windows, but if I have an office out of my house, I'm disqualified, but as a,
Not necessarily disqualified, but it's going to be really tricky. I'll send you Dan's exact email regarding home office situations. It wouldn't apply to the entirety of your house though.
no, it's a percentage for the office. Of course.
Yeah.
And, of course, that's to limit your tax Uncle Sam's liability.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna go rent an office building, just gotta be a better grant writer, how to say it.
Have you done a few of these applications?
I'm in the process with several people on the applications. We have a lot of commercial fishermen. We have quite a few lodges that are interested in getting solar panels. And then we've got a couple restaurant businesses, a couple hotels. And we just had had a grocery store go through the whole application process.
Locally or in state?
In Fairbanks. And then we're looking at another grocery store in Kodiak.
Is there a limit on the money? I mean, if they're gonna do a project, it might be $500,000 or something, or $1 billion.
Yeah, no, there's not necessarily a limit. I think it goes up to 2.5 million or something. Obviously, there's tiers to the application level, so if you're under $80,000, you get the easiest application. If you go between $80,000 to $200,000, that's another kind of level of application. And then if you go beyond that, that's another level of application. The other thing about this grant is it's funded through the next couple years, and the deadlines are kind of rolling deadlines, so they're every quarter. So you can be working on this application for a while.
So the amount is basically what you're paying taxes on. And if you have a lot of deductions and you get it way down, you can meet those.
What do you mean?
Say you make gross 200,000,
Mhm.
but you end up paying taxes on 50. You've got deductions and depreciation and stuff. So I'm just trying to scam and figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, I would
You know,
say
just
projects below like, you know, um, sometimes people come in with a project that's gonna cost like 2,500. It's probably not worth it to go through this application process because it's so complicated. It's probably not really worth going through the entire application process until you're getting up to like the $10,000 project.
that somebody like you would assist through the process.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
any of these, I mean, I go to the bank and get a loan or filling out.
If you're applying for a loan, that is your thing.
Right, but I go talk to Cully because what does this mean? Oh, that.
Mhm.
So, I mean,
Yeah, so I'll help with, your SAM registration, filling out the applications for the grant specifically, getting your energy audit scheduled. If you need a technical assessment, I'll help with that. Your environmental review, I'll help with that. But if you're looking at getting a loan, you'd have to go talk to the bank.
right,
That would be all of
I
them.
was using that as an example to
Yeah.
fill it out. Sometimes your language is my language.
Yeah.
And, what the heck do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Does your auditors stay with you through the whole process? At the end, they want to see the finished result before you get a check back?
No, not necessarily. I think you just need to submit your receipts for your project costs and then you get reimbursed.
Okay.
And I think you might have to I haven't actually seen somebody go through the reimbursement process yet, but I'm imagining they're gonna, want proof of project completion to some level. And that would probably be, submitting your invoices from your contractors and stuff like that.
Do they limit the amount of applications they accept or like reimburse each quarter?
No, not necessarily. I mean, there is like obviously a pot of funding, but it's pretty big. In Alaska, it's not a very competitive grant, so you're very likely to get funded if you do submit an application. In that quarter, I think you're probably pretty likely to get approved. There is a prioritization for when it's getting like really competitive, but you're not really seeing that in Alaska. So
If you don't get approved, can you reapply in the future?
yeah, and you'll get feedback on why they didn't approve your application, and you can make adjustments for sure. But yeah, you could reapply and you can submit multiple applications. Like if you want to do an energy efficiency application and a renewable energy application in the same quarter, that's fine. You can do that.
So you're saying don't get discouraged.
No, don't get discouraged. But it is a pretty complicated process. That's why the USDA set up this technical assistance program, because they weren't getting any businesses to apply. So now I'm here to help people through the process, and maybe we get a few more applications.
Okay, so you're around and we can talk to you as we come up with thoughts and ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, if you are interested in doing it, it might just be worth getting the energy audit done, and he'll give you you can kind of like talk through potential project ideas with him, and he'll figure out what your payback is for each of those projects and kind of make a recommendation on where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck.
or even a bang for your buck.
Yeah.
I mean, the price of fuel, I mean, it's a major thing. If I could even cut that, it can make a big difference.
Mhm.
Are you seeing a lot of the heat pumps?
I am working with a mariculture company in Southeast that wants to get a heat pump for drying kelp. As a potential project, that was gonna be a pretty expensive project.
Why a heat pump?
I don't know why heat pump, I guess because they own hydropower in Kodiak, and the electricity in Kodiak is pretty cheap.
Okay, but I'm saying remember watching TV when you were younger? Maybe you're not that young, or old. They showed where the newspaper were going 900 miles an hour.
Mhm.
For them to be able to do that, they had to have dry air. So what they would do is just have an evaporator, not a heat pump, not an air conditioner, but just something that the air went over. That as the air went over it, it would freeze, the moisture would freeze to the evaporator.
Mhm.
So the air would be dry, which would allow them, newspaper was the medium of the day and they could sell lots when they needed it. So my question is the heat pump for drying kelp, if you're just taking the moisture out, you don't need a heat pump. It's more complicated. You've got
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know why they're interested in the heat pump per se. They're gonna get an energy audit, and the energy audit will say,
suggest they talk to somebody that does refrigeration.
yeah, I mean,
There's other ways to get the moisture out of the air than, I mean, if you're gonna use a Toyota stove, I mean, they're pretty efficient.
yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about drying kelp, but I'm guessing the energy auditor is gonna say, that's a great idea, or that's a terrible idea, you should look at this.
It would be fun to talk to them, just to other, if they're just taking moisture out.
Mhm.
Your car uses that. When you fire up in the wintertime, you got that moisture inside. The newer cars, the air conditioning comes on because it takes the moisture out of the air,
Mhm.
defrosts faster, and then there's the tube that just drains it outside.
Mhm.
So there's not a heat pump in the cars.
Yeah. And maybe they're just looking at a heat pump to heat their facility. I'm not sure why they're looking at it, but if you're interested in heat pumps, there's a flyer for the new CEC program that's going on, to add heat pumps to residential houses. I'm not helping with that project at all, but they are providing, sounds like $5,000 per household, while funds last to install the heat pump.
Could you do that in conjunction?
With, not if it's a house, because this only applies to businesses. Their program is for residential units, so I think it would work for the apartment complex.
What exactly is it?
Robert probably knows.
Okay, you've got two components. You've got an evaporator and a condenser. All you're doing is moving the refrigerator. You've got to put something hot in there, warm, and that's all relative. Because when you put it in there, the whole principle behind refrigeration is heat goes to cold. So you have something colder in the refrigerator that the heat goes to. The Freon absorbs the heat, goes through the compressor, it's rejected. Now your second refrigerator is air. Air in the room is colder. You see you got 90-degree discharge temperature coming out. The room in the air temperature in your room is 70. So you have a 20 degrees temperature difference. Heat goes to cold. This is 90 degrees, your room is 70.
So it's a matter of moving the air?
Yes, but what they do is they have an air conditioner, a heater, and they have a reversing valve. So in here, you want to cool the room, you have an evaporator, and then you have a condenser unit outside. And now wintertime, you want heat in the building, they've got a reversing valve. Now this is the condenser and the evaporator outside. So they're taking the heat out of the air outside and discharging it in the room now. Just plumbing. It's a little more complicated with circuit boards, humidity, shit.
So it'd be a separate unit, it's not something you add to the hydronic system or?
No, it would be completely separate electric. We have an outside unit, and inside evaporators. And you could have, like, say in here, you wanted one in here, but you wanted one out there, you can't have split. So you can have more. But with advances in compressors, refrigerants, they are way more efficient. But everybody's gone to Anchorage and stayed in a hotel, that noisy thing in there by the windows, that's a heat pump. Summertime, it blows cold air in, and in the wintertime, it blows hot air.
Yeah, the other thing to think about is CEC. So heat pumps are electric, which would obviously drive your electric bill up to crazy level. But CEC they're implementing a new winter rate, which is, I think, if you're over 1,000 kilowatts, then that rate is dropping down to like 6 cents per kilowatt hour. So it's going to be really low once you're over 1,000 kilowatt hours. So your electricity bill is going to go up quite a bit, but once you're over that 1,000 kilowatt hours.
You have a heat pump or not?
No.
That's only if you have the heat pump.
No, it applies to all households. I think this winter. But so if you were thinking about switching to heat pumps, you could. Yeah, you jack up your electric bill. But once you're over 1,000 kilowatt hours, it's going to be a lot cheaper, and you'll replace your fuel costs.
It's not that much, because don't they have that 750, that program where they 750 kilowatt hours per month? That's was a big issue in Juneau. They wanted to do away with it, but you're already getting credit for 750. Look at your electric bill.
Well, there's the 500 kilowatt hours that you get at a certain tariff structured rate. Then everything over that is the added percentage cost of your PCE for your fuel savings and whatnot. And then this new tariff is at 1,000, it goes down to 6 cents.
That's 6 cents per generation, or because it's like 42 cents.
6 cents per generation,
So it's going to be
like 48 cents. But yeah,
so it's not going to be.
so everything over that 1,000 is 6 cents instead of 48 cents a kilowatt hour.
Years.
Yeah.
So I guess if you're interested in heat pumps,
$1,000.
it would be, good to figure
But
out
there's a,
what that actually.
what's the state program that the PCE is?
Power cost equalization.
They pay. I thought it was 750.
It's 75% of your overall. So they do I think up to the first 500 kilowatt hours, it's like 0.75% off of each kilowatt hour. So it knocks it down quite a bit. It depends on your usage, though. I can't give you actual numbers on that. But you can look on your bill and see it. It'll tell you how much you offset.
Well, that's all I've got. So
Thank you, Shae.
Yeah,
That's
thank you.
great.
thanks for coming, everybody.
And yeah, she placed more information on the back table, so feel free to take photos or can they take it with them?
Yeah, sure.
Well, we signed up, so you're going to send us emails.
If you want an email, I'll send you an email.
You've got to shoot.
That's the science center sign-in sheet, but Shae will take information from it.
Yeah,
Yep.
if you want to sign up for technical assistance, there's a form for me back there.
Signed up both of them.
Oh, great.
Just one of them, or both of them signed up.
Just one of them.
Thanks, Shane.
Thanks, Shane.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you.
Refrigeration business now? Shae.
I wanted to say hi. I'm Jake.